Welcome back to LFMP Radio, episode 2. I'm Nigel Thomas. I feel like a little worm on a big fucking hook, and this is life from my perspective. I'm out here in this park again, because, I feel like being in, and it rained like a few times on me, honestly. So, I had a few things I wanted to talk about, but I just had a whole freaking, experience right now with, just the way I got here. There was somebody here. It started raining, and then they came under the shelter with me, and I couldn't record because it was weird. And so I did some writing, and instead, they finally left, and now I'm here by myself, and it's not raining anymore. And I was about to just go home and be like, fuck it, bro. I can't do this shit right now. Because, I want some peace. And, I want to be able to talk to myself in peace. Is that so much to ask? And so what was I going to talk about? I don't even freaking remember now. I really got to start writing this shit down, honestly, because it's pretty crazy that here I am trying to record myself, talking to myself, and then forgetting what I was fucking talk about. So I gotta start taking. I like for it to be off the cuff, But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that because I keep forgetting about shit. Oh, there was one thing I wanted to talk about. In the last episode, if it seemed like, first of all, I don't even know if me saying that I'm out here in the park again is even in that episode, but I was out in the park in the last episode, and foolishly I didn't charge my laptop. So if the last episode seems like it ended sort of abruptly, or if I kind of cut it short, it's because my battery was about to die, and I didn't want everything to lose everything, and I didn't really know what the deal was if my computer just shut off, if since I hadn't saved the recording or anything, if I just fucking spent an hour talking to myself in the park for nothing. Which is fucking pretty crazy to even think about, for nothing. I'm doing this shit right now for nothing. But I guess it's not for nothing. It's because I want to do it. And it helps, I get to look back on conversations I had with myself instead of just having them be trapped in my brain, and then I forget about things I've thought about, and I was like, hey, I had a really nice line of dialogue in my brain, but I totally forgot what that conversation was even about, and then sometimes I'll go and I'll be talking to people, and they'll be like, I think I was talking to this person about something, or I had a conversation with somebody once, and I was saying how this, and then, not even realizing that conversation probably never even happened. It probably just happened in my head. I know I sound like a crazy person, but I really don't mind that that's how I sound, because, a lot of people are crazy in this world and they keep it hidden. I guess me included, but, it's just one of those things where it's so many people are crazy that the reality is nobody's actually crazy. We just think our actions are crazy because, we don't see everybody else walking around doing them, or, people talk. I don't think people talking to themselves is crazy. Why not? You have a voice, you have a mind, you have thoughts. You should be allowed to vocalize that and not always have to just keep that to yourself and keep it inside your brain. Because sometimes you gotta say things out loud in order to confirm what you're thinking. You can't just sit there and think about certain things and then hope that they're gonna mean something to you. It's just when people tell you things that you already know, right? Sometimes you're I'm glad you're saying that, because deep down I already knew that, and that feeling of deep down that you already knew that is sort of a thing of, yeah, you've thought about this and you've felt these certain things, but you've never actually said them out loud, so they kind of haven't manifested in any sort of way. So when you do positive affirmations to yourself, you have to say them out loud. because your mind remembers them differently. You know, it's like the difference between you singing a song in your head and then singing the song out loud. You know, it has a completely different like effect on your brain. You know, and then you also it creates a memory. You know, it's just kind of like when you're thinking about things all the time. It's a habit, and you know, you become better at remembering it the more you do it, and you remember certain things that you're thinking about. But it's sort of like your dreams, right? Your dreams are just thoughts that occur while you're sleeping in your subconscious. And if you're not waking up and actively trying to remember those things, or actively trying to give those things some sort of merit, then they're gonna disappear. You're gonna forget about them. You know, and some people who are a lot more efficient at remembering their dreams, they are better at recalling their dreams because they do it, because they say it out loud, and they might tell somebody, oh, I had a dream about this and this. And when they do things like that, it's like kind of creating that habit in their mind, and giving importance to a certain thing, so they just naturally start to become better at it. And when you write your dreams down in the morning or something, you know, you're it's way easier to recall. I have dreams that I've written down that I haven't even like gone back. I haven't even gone back to read those things, but I remember them because I wrote them down. And because it was a physical action that I performed in my like waking life, that I am able to remember it. Just like when I'm writing my stories, when I'm writing my books, I remember certain things that happen in the books, you know. And that's just like exactly the same feeling I have when I think about those dreams that I wrote down. It's kind of like I just came up with something, which I guess technically I did. It's actually an interesting concept of having dreams is like somebody being a writer, right? I talk to people about writing, and a lot of people feel insecure about writing, like they can't do it. But you can do it. It's not a hard thing to do. You know how to talk, so all you have to do is start considering how you can take words that you would say and transferring them to paper, right? That's simple. We all know how to text, you know. We all have to have written for homework assignments, or whatever. So if you were just going to say something to somebody, if you were going to tell a story, whether it's made up or real life, you would just do it, right? You would say it, and you would be like, and then so I was like this, and then I went over there, and then I saw this thing, and I was like freaking out, and so I ran this way, and blah blah blah, you know. And all that seems like a giant mess, right? You're trying to recount events that happened while also explaining something, and also trying to make it interesting, while also trying to hold that person's attention. You know, it's a lot all at once. And so when you're writing, you're taking that and you're putting it down to paper, right? And you're like, but people are so much better writers than me. The way they flow is so much better, and like the conversation's so much better. But that's where editing comes in, right? The writing process is multi-layered, right? You don't just write everything at once and then it's like boom, it's perfect, you know. You have an idea of what kind of tone you're trying to express, and then you write it that way. But the point is to get the idea down, right? So you don't have to be trying to do this juggling act in your brain about certain things that you want to bring up. And then you can go into it and you can edit it so it comes out to be a expressed in a more efficient way, or a more interesting way, or a more creative way. You go in and you change up those details. You take out those extra words that you don't need. You might change up a description of something and make it a little like more efficient, right? Because when you're saying something, when you're speaking like how I'm speaking now, it's all coming out off the top. But it's just another version of that. Oh damn, I should have said that. When you're thinking about back on conversations or arguments that you might have had with somebody, when you're writing in that moment, it's that you get to go back and adjust everything that you want to say in the exact way that you mean it and that you want to say it. And, I think that if you consider that anybody's capable of writing, just like anybody has a dream, you have a dream, your mind is aware of concepts and things that are occurring around you that you probably might not take notice of or even like care too much about. But when you sleep, your brain is just running and it's just like taking all these things in there. It might create a story, or it may create some images and like various things that make you actually feel something, right? And it's all an illusion. It's a giant illusion created by your brain. I don't know why. I mean, I'm not a freaking is there a scientific word for people who study dreams? Well, whatever that scientific word is, I'm not one of those. I'm just saying that, if your brain is doing all these things, that means it's in you somewhere, right? And simply coming out of your dream and being like, damn, that was a crazy ass dream. That there's a falcon with 30 eyes and shit. Like, what? It was giant and its wings were expanding over the entire city. I don't even live in a city, but I was in the city, but the city wasn't like a real city. It was like a city in the sky, and like all the lights from the buildings were like this crimson reddish color, and people were talking, but they weren't using their mouths. They were talking with their brains and stuff. This is so crazy. And all that sounds crazy, and not everybody's dreams are crazy like that. But just the idea that your brain can manifest even just something as simple as a conversation. If you have a dream where you're having a conversation with somebody you care about, and then you either feel a cathartic feeling at the end of it, or you feel angry at the end of it, that's your brain making stuff up based off of subconscious like factors that you have just absorbed throughout your daily life or your entire life, and it's coming to fruition in your dreams. It's coming up, and it might be based off of your emotions you felt when you went to sleep that night, or emotions you felt earlier. Doesn't matter really. It's just that your brain is creating these things. So if your brain is capable of doing that, that means you're capable of writing. Now, you might not feel like you are good at writing, and there might be people who are better than you at writing, but all that comes with just practice, right? It's easy to look at your work objectively when you just write something, then read it, and then you have a distinct idea of whether or not you like what you wrote or you didn't like what you wrote. And if you like what you wrote, then you can continue to write it, or you can share it with somebody, or you can, flesh it out, or do whatever you need to do to make it better. If you didn't like it, then look at it and be like, why don't I like this? What is it about this that I feel I don't like? And then you go in and you change it. Like, okay, maybe I should have said it this way. You go in and change it, make it say it that way. I don't know. I feel like I'm using very simple words. I want to use more grander words. I want to express my intelligence. Well, then fucking just go in, look up some words, look at some synonyms, do whatever you have to do to make it interesting. Go in and do it. You're enhancing your knowledge. You're becoming a better writer by adjusting yourself, by figuring out what you don't like and then changing it. And you can do that the same way by critiquing other people's writing, right? And I'm not saying you have to actually go up to a person and be like, you know what? I think your writing is very simple-minded. You're not really expressing any big ideas. They're super basic and predictable. Like, you don't have to go out and criticize people. Just personally look at something that you're reading and understand why you are not engaged with that, why it's not really hitting or vibing with you, and then you apply that to your own writing. You apply that to whatever you're doing. And I don't know how this turned into a writing lesson, but it's more about the aspects of dreams, right? Everybody's capable of that creation, and acknowledging that you even have dreams is showing that you have the ability to create. Anyways, I'm moving on to some other shit. All right, I'm gonna go. I said I was gonna do this, I think in episode 0 of LFMP Radio, that I was like, oh, if I need inspiration of something to do, what I could do is I could just go back and look at some of this fucking crazy ass writing. I guess it's not crazy ass. I mean, lower your expectations. I'm not trying to say that I'm crazy, even though I have said that. But I write. I write a lot of stuff, and a lot of times I will start writing something that isn't finished, or I will write something that like it's just one line of something, and then I don't go back to it. And these things, I have like years of this stuff built up in like a physical form in real life, like from comic books I used to do in elementary and middle school, to writing I did while I was like at work, and all these things. And since this is my podcast, I'm going to I feel like what I did say in episode 0 is that I would go back and just look at those things and probably just like read them and like talk about them. And so lately I've kind of like been trying to avoid looking at any of that stuff, right? Any of those things that I've written before, I try to avoid looking at them, just so I can like still like not have any kind of thoughts on them, and just kind of just have that reaction be expressed right there in that moment. Because like I said, I came into this, I had a lot of thoughts about certain things I wanted to talk about, but they just all left my mind when I started recording, and I didn't write them down. I think about, it's like I've had those lines of dialogue in my head already, and it seems kind of weird for me to try to regurgitate them on this, because they've already been said. I said it in my mind, and it's not scripted. I don't want to be scripted. But anyways, I'm going to look at this Instagram page I have, right? And this Instagram page I have, it's not fucking popular. Let me see. I have 38 followers on this Instagram page, and they don't really even engage with it, and I don't care though. I mean, that's something that I want to say right off the bat. I don't really care about like engagement on Instagram, or like, man, this thing didn't get a lot of followers, it's delete. I do feel less obligated when there's less people expressing interest in the things that I've written. That just makes me feel like, it doesn't make me feel like I don't want to do it. It just makes me feel like I don't have to do it until I feel like doing it, because I'm not beholden to anybody. And so I started this thing called Lyric Prescription, right? And it was just like, I just had like a thoughts of like certain like lyrics from songs. At first, like when I first thought about doing it, I was just like, I want to write down like weird ass, I just want to like share weird lyrics from certain songs that really like don't mean anything, and not really express where it came from, right? Just be like, this is a lyric, and just like share it. But then it became more of like, I was like, maybe I don't want to share like goofy lyrics. I just want to share like certain lyrics, right? And it's just one of those things. The way I look at Instagram is like, I just want for people to be, I don't know, scrolling through Instagram, and then maybe have it pop up like this lyric pop up, and them see it and just be like, huh, and just move on, and which it could have happened on this page. Let's see, the very first post I have on here only had 9 likes on it, right? So 9 people actually went out of their way to double tap that shit, and these 9 likes are not from people I know, because I don't I don't follow anybody I know using this page. Well, I do now. I feel like I'll probably like two or three people with it, but and they follow it back. And but it's not like I'm like, oh, I make a new page and I'm gonna go fucking like follow all my followers so they could follow it back and shit like. And I don't feel it feels weird to me, right? Like I don't want to go and make people follow another page, another one of my 50 pages. I don't have 50 pages. I'm just saying that. But just so they could see the different stuff. Oh, I'm doing this over here and this over here and this over here. And like I don't want to have I don't expect people to be interested in every single thing that I'm doing, right? And I think really at the most people should be like, I'm gonna have my social page, my main page, where I just post anything that I'm doing, and then my art page, right, where I show off like my hobby or some shit, right? And I don't think that if you have more pages than that, then I'm like, oh, you're wasting your time. I just think like as far as like expectation of people following what you're doing, you would have two, right? Just two. Anything else outside of that, I don't think you should really expect somebody to follow like 15 of pages that are all ran by you, right? Especially if like you don't really post shit all the time. And so I decided to write things that like I don't know, I like just lyrics that stand out to me. And I decided I was gonna put the lyric, and I decided to go with this cool like color coordination thing, put some like interesting image or not so interesting image in the background, have it like saturated to like a kind of one distinct color. And then I was gonna write things in the description, and at the end of this description I put the actual name of the song and who it was by, right? So if you did see the actual lyric, and you were like, well, wait, what's this from? And then you wanted to actually like see what the lyrics were, you would have to like fucking scroll past all of my writing bullshit, and then you would see it. And yeah, I also put like the definitions of certain words from the song title. Hold on, there's a plane flying past. Yeah, so I put the title from definitions of words from the title as like secondary slides on Instagram, and just put those definitions in. Like I don't know, I'm a writer, so like I think definitions of certain words are important. And sometimes there's certain words that that you don't really ever think about the definition because it's so obvious and it's something that's so commonplace. These are words that you've learned, that you already knew when you were like in like kindergarten through like middle school and shit. These are kind of those basic words, like, but it's just like you put it in perspective because it's like about music. And I think music is one of those art forms that a lot of aspects of it can easily get overlooked, right? Because there's just so much going on. There's a time progression, and there's beats, and there's different like musical instruments and sounds being made that you're not even really latching on to because you're being bombarded by like the lyrics and the amalgamation of all those instruments, and also like the rhythmic flow of the person singing and how good their voice is. You get lost in that and you feel like emotions sometimes, and it's just like one of those things that you really sometimes you listen to a song and then you hear an aspect of it that you didn't really pay attention to before. And so like that's kind of how like the lyrics are. Just like lyrics are something that I feel definitely get overlooked because it's just sometimes you just like the song, right? But you say the lyrics, you might even know the lyrics of the song, but sometimes you don't even really hear the lyrics, right? You don't hear the words as they are by themselves, right? The arrangement of the words, that the sentences that are actually being said. And so yeah, I just wanted to like kind of indulge in that fact of it, and basically kind of use this thing as my diary. My I don't know. I don't remember all the things that I've said in all these descriptions, but I just wrote them, and then they didn't even relate to what the lyrics were about, and I don't, like I said, I never expected this page to be huge or anything like that. It was just something I wanted to do, just to another way to get certain things off my chest, right? And it's one of those things like sometimes you want to have conversations with people that you just don't get to have with anybody because it just never happens, right? Sometimes you have thoughts that you just want to keep in your thoughts, and maybe it would be you've imagined talking to somebody about it, but you never actually had the opportunity to, or you probably just wouldn't because you're like, this is how this conversation might go, but I don't ever think that this conversation is going to happen because it doesn't need to, and my thoughts are my thoughts or whatever. And so I'm gonna say the very first. I'm not gonna go through all of these today. I'm gonna let them extend, right? I'm gonna let them go throughout different episodes. I'll just probably do one today because I don't want to try to like burn through all the like writing and shit I have. I just want to have something to talk about. That's it. So I'll just talk about whatever I wrote here. Maybe I'll explain why I wrote it. Maybe I'll just explore it deeper. I don't know. I'm gonna have to read it first. But the very first post I put on this page, lyric prescription. Prescription is supposed to just be like, music is kind of like a prescription for a lot of people, right? You find your cure, and you feel healed through music sometimes. Music is just that one thing that can help to realign your emotion, when you're feeling like out of whack and stuff. So yeah, that's why I call it lyric prescription, just like a pill. And like all the definitions have like pills behind them and shit. I thought it was fun, and that's why I did it. I don't know how many posts are on here. Let me see how many posts I have. I have 39 posts. So I have one more post than I have followers on this page. So shout out to City Connection. That's a Instagram page. And that whoever this City Connection person is, I follow them back with this page. They have probably like more than anybody consistently liked the post on my lyrical prescription. I don't know why I started following this person or why this person started following me, but like out of everybody, they're the ones who you see their name in each one. And it wasn't like I had a bunch of like posts and then they just went and did that thing where people go and they like, when they start following you, they like all your posts. I don't do that. I find that weird. I'm sorry. Anybody out there who I follow on Instagram, if I don't like all your posts once I started following you, it's just because I think it's weird. I don't want people to go on their Instagram and then see like 400 likes and they'd be like, oh shit, what the fuck, I'm blowing up, and then it's like from the same person, right? And then like your notifications is just a huge ass like list of this same person liked this photo and they like this photo and they like this photo and like this. I mean, all the love to the people that I follow and people follow me, but I'm never gonna. I'll probably like your most recent post, and then I'll like any other post that I happen to like, but I'm not gonna go through and fucking just like all your freaking photos because it's important to me. I mean, if you have I said important to me if that sounded unclear, but it's important to me the photos and shit that I do like, because that shit saves in your post I've liked part of your Instagram. And I don't want people's whole ass Instagrams in my post I've liked, because I do spend a lot of time liking certain like pieces of art and shit that I come across and important things that I come across on Instagram, and I like to be able to go back and look at those things, and I don't want to have to scroll through somebody's entire Instagram before I find like a piece of art that I liked, So I'll just say that. I've been wanting to get that off my chest for a long time. But this very first one I put on lyrics prescription. It's like purple-ish with a clock behind it, and the lyric is, "Phew, for a minute there I lost myself." Like, like not few, like little, but phew, like you're wiping sweat. Phew, for a minute there I lost myself. Uh, do you know what that's from? If you know what that's from, uh, don't tell anybody else. I don't know. I mean, you'll figure it out before I actually say what the song is. But what I wrote here, I haven't read this and I don't know how long. I wrote this December 12th, 2018, and it says, "There are some things in life that take you by surprise. Hundreds of hours of your life spent day after day imagining what you'd say or do if such and such happened. Then one day, when you least expect it, as you're going through the motions of life, it happens. Something unexpected, thought altering, and paradigm shifting. Something that emotionally blindsides you. All of a sudden, you forget everything. Everything you thought you understood and prepared for suddenly becomes lost to you, like someone went into your room and covered all your possessions with white drapes. You know all your stuff is there. You see the shapes, yet for some reason, all of it becomes a mystery to you. But when you take a moment to breathe, then another, then you realize nothing has changed. You're still the same person. This random twist of fate hasn't deprived you of your intellect, your cleverness, nor your comprehension skills. You're still you, and you can overcome this situation just as easily as the ones you imagine in your mind. You just have to breathe and recenter yourself." And the lyric, "Phew, for a minute there I lost myself," is from the song Karma Police by Radiohead. So this, I don't even know what drove me to write this, honestly. A lot of the time when I go back and I look at certain things that I've written, I could think of like the moment in my life that led me to write this. But clearly this is some insightful like stuff, and it kind of like alludes to what I've been talking about just kind of forgetting the things that I especially this part where I say that this it's like someone went into your room and covered all your possessions with white drapes, and nothing was ever taken from you, right? But you could see that that's not how you left it, and you can see the shape of everything that's there, but it's not distinguishable in the sense that you can see it for its whole. And I think that kind of alludes to like a point I was saying earlier about just kind of, I mean, I don't think there was a point to it, but just how I came into this expecting to talk about certain things, but once I like hit record, I don't really remember any of that stuff. I don't remember the way I was going to say it, or just things. I was going to talk about death today, actually. Is that too dark for episode 2? I don't think so. It was insightful, I think. But I'm not gonna get into it. I might get into it in episode 3. But maybe I will get into it. Fuck it, dude. Fuck it. I don't care. I'm thinking about it now, and you know what? By the time I do episode 3, my mind's gonna be somewhere else. What I was gonna say about death is kind of just like, by the way, when I was gonna talk about death, I was going to like lead into it, but like there's gonna be a reason I like led into it. But see, that's the thing I was talking about earlier. I don't want it to feel like this is shit scripted, but it was gonna go right off of like me saying the intro into like death. But I was just kind of thinking about how there was just a time when people were like just writing normalize this and that and shit, and like their Instagram story all the time, and I was just like, what's something I could what people need to normalize, but nobody will say this shit. Nobody will say it. I mean, because like some of the stuff people were trying to normalize, I was like, that shit's already fucking normal, dog. Calm down. And I guess the whole point of it is to be like, yeah, it is normal, but we act like it's not. That's what the whole point is, I think. If not, correct me if I'm wrong. But I was like, well, you know what we need to normalize? We need to normalize death. We need to normalize death. And death, and I say that because death has such a negative connotation associated with it, right? It seems so like awful, which I mean, in many aspects it is. But I feel like the reason why we feel that way is because it's not normalized, because it's just this kind of like dark shadow that everybody tries to pretend isn't there on a constant basis. And it's something that is inevitably going to happen to everyone. And I think it's scariness comes from the idea that we don't know when, right? But it could happen, and we don't have a expiration date. We don't know when it's going to happen to us, and all we know is that it's going to. And I think that is something that we're afraid of, or afraid to talk about, because nobody wants that, right? And whether you consider yourself religious or not, it's still like something that people are scared of. And I forgot what like I think I was playing the game Everything. If you've never played that game Everything, you should, because that game is just kind of like out there. Like if you like something that's like super simple and chill, you should play that. And it has just like this philosophical like I don't know this guy. I think this guy's pretty popular, but it's just like this old recording of this guy. I don't know his name. Sorry about that guy, but I don't know if that guy's alive or not. So I don't care. He's not listening to this shit. But he's going. He's. It's like throughout the game, you become everything, right? You start off like, maybe you'll start off as a pebble, right? And you get to, as the game's teaching you how to play it, you go and you'll be a pebble, and you're just like rolling across the ground, and you can go up to like a piece of grass, right? And you can become that grass, and now you're controlling the grass. The grass is moving around. You can move around as the grass, and you can come across like a beetle or something, right? You can go to the beetle, and you become the beetle, and you can go up to a I don't know if there's rabbits in the game, but you can go to a like lion or a elk or something, you know, and you can become those things. And the game is so simple, and the game is so based off of like just being everything, that like the animals that you become don't even have like physics, right? When you turn into your first quadruped, like the game becomes kind of comical because they just fucking roll. They just like a block, right? There's absolutely no physics. They're just these rigid like shapes, like as if they were like sculptures, right? And they just roll. And then you become capable of like calling, like controlling multiple like animals at once, or whatever you're being. You can become multiples of those things at once, and you can like just like roll around. Like I remember like one of the first things I had like done when I was first playing it, I had like a bunch of like wildebeest that like I just like amassed an army. And also you like later on you start to be able to like just duplicate it. So if you just get one thing, you could just duplicate it till it's maximum and you have it. And I just like I was like in this like deserty area, and I just like had the wildebeest come down from over like a sandy hill like it was fucking Lion King. And I was gonna take that clip and like add the music on top of it. I never did it though. And then you can like, I'm thinking of like PlayStation because I had it on PlayStation. I do have it on PlayStation. You can press like hold triangle, I think, and then they'll start to like do this kind of like dance, like kind of like bee style, where it's just like they're making, I don't know if bees dance. Bees don't dance like that. I'm sorry, bees. sorry to the beat community. I misappropriated your dance. You guys don't dance like this, unless you do dance like this. In which case, I'm not sorry. But they were just doing like some like circle, like I would say like, oh shit, there's a helicopter. Hold on, let me pause real quick. Anyways, like I was saying, uh, they're doing this dance. You know those dances like people do like when they're doing like those water performances and they're spinning all in circles and shit. And like yeah, it's more like that. But throughout this game, while you're doing all this and you're becoming everything, which by the way, like you can only become stuff like smaller if you become a smaller thing, right? And so like if you get small and you get super small, you can become like an ant, and you can go from an ant to like being a piece of dust, and then you can go from dust to being like molecules, shits that's on a microscopic level, right? And you keep going down. I'm not going to tell you what happens if you keep going down though. If you want to play the game, or if you want to find out what happens when you keep going down and getting smaller and smaller, you have to play the game, because I won't spoil that for you. It's awesome though, so play it. You can fucking, that game's probably like $4 or $7 right now. Buy it if you have a game console. I don't know if it's on fucking phone or shit, but you know, just buy it. Because while you're doing all this and you're going through the game, you'll come across these little like things. I don't know what they're called. There's a term for that, but I don't know. I'm not gonna look it up. But you just come across these little glowy things throughout the world, and you go up and you get them, and it'll start playing this audio from this like long monocle this long monologue that this guy's giving, like, and I mean it's I'm sure you've heard it before, but at one part it's just like this huge like existential like philosophy about like just life and many different things. And he recounts, he says, he talks about the story, right? And like it gives like small snippets of it, so you can like you can find the whole thing throughout the world. But there's one part where the guy's like, he was talking about like people's like religious beliefs, right, and what they think is gonna happen after they die and stuff, right? And he goes back to he's I don't remember the story exactly, so I'm paraphrasing. Bear with me, please. But he goes and he's talking to this like I guess a colonel or something, asking him what he thinks is gonna happen after he dies or some shit. And he goes on to this kind of like, you know, Christianic like, after I die, you know, my spirit will go to heaven and stuff like that. And, you know, saying that, right? And he goes on, he says that whole thing, and then he's like, but I don't like to talk about such like negative stuff, which was referring to death, right? And like it was the guy was telling it was kind of like meant to be a joke. Maybe it was just a fucking joke that he was just like retelling. But the thing was that the point of it was that despite the fact that the colonel or whatever, the soldier guy, had like this belief of this beautiful like paradise that he would ascend to after he died, he still referred to the subject as being negative, like the concept of talking about death to be negative, right? And that's the thing. It's just like it's a thing that in our culture here in America we put as, I mean, I don't know other cultures. I mean, I'm not a worldly dude. Worldly dude. I haven't been around the world and like gotten to know a bunch of other cultures, but you know, I see shit like, you know, in the way other people consume media and stuff. I'm able to like get an understanding of other cultures and know that mine isn't the only one that exists. So I have an understanding of that, and it's not like that in all cultures, is basically what I'm saying. And but it's death is like just like such an awful thing that we people are always trying to like fight against, right? And they want to live their life to a certain way because they're afraid of what's going to happen when they die. But I also believe that, there are people here who feel like they can't really live their life because, it's like, just like, sometimes it's just the same shit every day. And when I say shit, I don't mean just like in a negative aspect. I just mean like you're on a loop, right? You get up, you do the same thing like all the time, and you can't really perceive, you have no perception of when things are going to change, and you can't see your own timeline, right? And maybe perhaps if people did see their own timeline, if they did know how long exactly they had to continue to like do this, maybe it would motivate them to be more active or be more headstrong or forthright or overbearing. I mean, I don't think overbearing is not really a positive thing, but they would be, I just said all those synonyms, I don't need to say another one, but they would attack their life stronger, and they would feel like they were on a time limit. They would feel like, I gotta do this because I know for sure, like if there was some sort of way that we could know for sure how long we had on this planet, I think people would be a lot happier, honestly, if they knew when they were gonna die. Not necessarily how, but if they at least knew, because then you think, oh, but that's gonna make people paranoid, and like they're gonna be always trying to avoid their death. They're gonna be afraid to live. You might think that, and maybe that might be a thing when this, I don't know, we'll say it's like a leap in science that is able to determine like exactly when you're about to die. When the scientific experiment happens, if the scientific progression was a thing that existed, where you could know exactly when you were going to die. I think maybe people might be like paranoid about it at first, but honestly, even if it was a voluntary thing, that's just a voluntary thing, man. If it was a voluntary thing, like people would still, I think people still do it. People would still be curious, and they're like, I want to know. Cause like there's not any information regarding ourselves that I feel like people wouldn't want to know. Like if somebody had information or a possibility to tell you something about yourself that was fact and 100% true that you didn't know, you would want to know it to some degree. And I think people might be hesitant towards it in the beginning, but as years pass and as it exists longer, people would be more comfortable with the idea, because that's just the thing. Death is like taboo, right? I think just the idea that I'm even talking about death right now is kind of like, might be putting anybody who's listening to this like off a little bit. It's like, does Nigel need help for anything? He's thinking a lot about death, I'm concerned for him. Like, don't be concerned for me. Like, I've thought about death a lot, way before this moment, and maybe even times when it should have been concerning. I mean, it's just like, it's one of those things. It's a part of life, right? And it seems like a scary thing to face, but it happens, right? And it just hurts a lot more when you try to pretend like it isn't gonna happen. You pretend like it's a thing that doesn't exist. That's what makes life precious, is the idea that we don't get to be here forever. And and part of the reason why we've even advanced as a civilization to begin with is because people don't get to be here forever, right? There's some people who had a stranglehold on progression because they were a tyrant, or they were just like ruling over something. I mean, that's why war exists, right? War is a thing that existed because people were aware of the fact that, hey, if these people weren't here anymore, then we could do what we wanted to do. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying that it was a good solution, but it was just the nature of the beast, as it were, the nature of existence in less civilized times. Even amongst animals, combat and fighting against each other in order to to come out on top was a thing that people acknowledged, that if you weren't here, then I could move forward. I could progress the way I wanted to. And so the fact that our time is limited here means that we make space for others, right? When we pass, there's space for others. There's some people that are alive today who have ideas and stuff that we'd be better off if those ideas weren't around anymore, right? We have elders, grandmas and grandpas and great grandpas and great grandmas and great great grandmas and great great grandpas whose ideas are just like, you don't want to fucking hear that shit anymore, right? And you don't want them teaching that shit to your kids. And even though you have some kind of obligation to quote unquote love them, you don't necessarily want them spreading their ideas to your children in a world where we're trying to progress past like sins of the past, and but even like that's just like a more like negative side of it. But I mean, knowing that your days are limited would, I think, help people feel like this shit isn't such torture. This isn't so grueling, because we don't all got it made, right? And even some people who got it made still fucking feel like life is fucking like shit, And another aspect of death that I wanted to talk about is I think that the euthanization of human beings should be allowed, And that right there is something that's like, oh wait, hold up now. What the fuck are you saying? Like, but there are people who don't want to be alive anymore, right? And I'm not just talking about people who are sick. I'm talking about people who want to commit suicide. And I think that, yeah, we don't want people to commit suicide, but at the same time, we aren't those people, right? We don't get it's crazy that we get to make the decision of whether or not somebody has to stay alive when they don't want to anymore, right? It seems fucking ballistic, honestly. Ballistic. I don't know if I want to use that word. Maybe, but it seems crazy. It seems crazy that, cause like, at the end of the day, if somebody wants to die, if somebody really wants to kill themselves, then, and they're not like in a hospital, like if they're not in clinical like critical condition, then there's little they could do probably to like kill themselves. But if somebody who is a full functional human being who just doesn't want to be alive anymore, then they're gonna take their life, and there's nothing you can do to stop them, right? And I don't think that if there are people in this world who don't want to be here, I don't think the only option should be something that where we have to fucking walk in on them and be traumatized. Like, who wants to walk in like on a like Kurt Cobain situation, or where somebody's hung themselves, or like somebody's jumped off of like a fucking building and like splattered on the ground and shit. Like, who wants to have to be the one to witness that, be the person who discovers it, and C, be the person who freaking has to clean it up, right? It's all messy, and people fucking have to go to those extremes because it's the only way they can actually get what they want without like interference. It's so direct, and so like it finalizes it, right? There's no hope of you stopping it. And people try to OD sometimes. I don't even know if anybody tries to OD. I guess there are people who try to commit suicide by overdosing, but it's still like that's not a good one. But I feel like those people probably don't want to fucking fully kill themselves. And I think people who do want to kill themselves don't always fully want to do that. And this is why, if there was an option for people to get assisted suicide, right, and in their lives, there could perhaps be a screening process where people get to go in, and then they potentially could seek help for whatever situation they're going through, and go through all those channels before actually being like written, like to be like, okay, this is something that you want, and we've confirmed that this is what something that you feel like is right for you. Then this is something that we can help you with, right? And that seems like damn, that's fucking dark. Like, how could you even think that's like a good thing to do? I mean, that I don't think people should be so involved with controlling how other people live their life, right? Like, I don't drink, but that doesn't mean I don't think other people should be allowed to drink, right? I don't do drugs, but it doesn't mean I don't think other people should be allowed to do drugs, right? Because it's like who I am as a person is who I am as a person, right? It's who I've chosen to be. It's like decisions I've made, and I, reserve the right to change who I want to be and how I want to exist. And other people should have those same options. And I think the short thing of it is that if it's not hurting anybody else, then other people should be allowed to do it. As long as what they're doing doesn't involve them potentially causing harm to other people, then it's fine. Now, you can try to dig in to try to see what, like, where the loopholes in that shit is, but like, that's not the fucking point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that I don't think that if somebody decides they wanted to like end their lives and that there was an option for them to be assisted, that it would be a bad thing. Think about it this way. Even if you had somebody in their life that wanted to kill themselves, right? And we had already normalized a system in which they could potentially do that. They can go to whatever clinic they need to go to be like, hey, I'm looking about killing myself, or having you guys assist me with, ending my life. I want to know what the process is between doing that. Then they'd be like, oh yeah, okay, sure, we'll process you. We'll do all the standard things we need to do. Figure out if it's a mental health issue. If we feel like, if this is the right option for you. And because I don't necessarily think that people should not be allowed to do that just because they're sad. Like, even if you are sad, I feel still like if you have a profound sadness where you feel like you can still justify taking your life, then that would all be established throughout the process. I mean, I'm not a freaking doctor, so I can't really tell you all the fine details of it. But once you get through that process, you can also be like, I can let my family know. Your family will be aware of it. Like, hey guys, a few months from now is going to be my death date, so clear your schedules. And it seems like, oh, what, dude, that's messed up. I don't want to think about that shit. But you have to think about it. It's something you have to think about. It's something you have to consider, because the reality is, regardless of how you feel about it, there are people who actually want that for themselves. There are people who actually want to leave this place, to leave this world, to leave this life. And unless it's brought up on Front Street like that, and you're given, and we have a system in place where it's normalized and people can actually just be forthcoming with it and just be like, oh yeah, this is something I'm considering. And that in turn allows family members to know, friends to know, the government to know, to know that this person who is going to potentially be taken off of whatever list they got him on, it's just one of those things where all of that can be established, and all the pain that comes after something like that happening can be foreseen, because usually it's kind of a thing where it takes people by surprise. They're caught off guard when they find out that somebody dear to them has taken their own life. You can cut past all that bullshit. You can cut past all the shit of having to clean somebody's corpse and all the extra stuff, or potential people who were witness to it, who have to be traumatized by it because they were just fucking minding their own business before, like they were somebody, they heard somebody shoot themselves, or they saw somebody jump off of a building, you know, that shit. Like, and like I saw this morning, like just watching like a video clip of dudes like scaling the side of buildings to kick people back into their patios, or their whatever the fuck you call them, when people like are living in apartments and they can like step out and like outlook over the side of the building. People who are like literally on the edge, who got prevented, right? And it's something you hope will never happen to anybody that you're close to, but it's also something that does happen, right? And it's something that catches people off guard, and it's something that we see as like super negative because it's the ending of life. But even if you think about it on the level of people who are in like critical conditions, like medically, and also want their lives to end, it's just like people who love them, who have control over that, not allowing them to make that decision, and or who just wants like their pain to end, or their suffering to end, but we're so like hell bent on keeping everybody alive, which we're fucking not actually, you know. It's very contradictory to not allow people who want to die. Meanwhile, you know, you got people who are supposedly authority in this world in some capacity, killing people constantly, you know, in their own streets and across in other countries, and, you know, trying to justify it by any means that they feel that they can. But we can't let people who actually don't want to participate in this thing called life anymore like pass. It's like because we're scared, right? And it's something that I feel like would actually help move, I would say, the human race in a more positive way than it would a negative, right? Because I mean, just like there's a lot of people here, and maybe we don't all need to be here. That's just me saying that. Not that I think that people need to start getting like executed or anything like that, but if there's an overpopulation of people, or just, you know, the effect that we have on the world just by being humans and stuff, like if some people want to go, let them go. I mean, and I don't say that lightly. I just say that as a like, consider what other people want and why other people might feel the way they feel. And if you feel like you're a person that's like super like, damn dude, like I don't want to be hearing this shit about like allowing people to die and stuff, like that really fucking rubs me the wrong way, then I also hope you're a person who considers their impact on the world and the people around them, right? Because I don't want to hear about anybody being upset about talking about suicide and the positive potential of allowing people to have assisted suicide in America, and you be a person who actually impacts that sort of mind state on people, right? You have to check yourself for sure, because another plane shit. But most of the people who come to that conclusion, it's because of the lack of support they feel from other people, or because of the negativity they get from other people, right? So if you don't like the fucking idea of people being so sad that they don't want to like be in the world anymore, or in some cases they're not sad, they just don't want to be here, if that bothers you, then make sure that you're not somebody that's contributing to that. Make sure that you're trying to be the best person that you can be, to try to be accepting and loving and expressing kindness to other people, as much as you can, because the reality is that those people exist. The people who don't want to be here exist. And whether or not you're allowing them to have an outlet or a potential like out in any regards, they're gonna fucking do whatever they do in order to fulfill that. And it's better if we actually can foresee that and have a potential option for them, and a, the possibility of deterring them from that path, if that is a possibility, if this is something that they probably don't want but they just consider because they don't see on any other option. Yeah, I know we have suicide hotlines and stuff like that, but those only exist to deter people from committing suicide, to be an outlet, yeah, to help them. But people who don't actually want to be prevented aren't going to call those hotlines, you know. People who already feel like they're trapped, they might not consider like, I'm gonna call this 1-800 number to have somebody convince me to stop doing this, you know. Sometimes they're past that, but maybe they're not really past it. And maybe if they had an actual place where they were gonna go, like, okay, I'm calling it in, I'm going, and then they can go to that place to actually get what they expect to have done, then they are forced to be face to face with somebody who could potentially help them get from that path. See, that person is also there. That is the person that they're going to actually get what they want. But that person could also be the person that's going to help them realize that that's not what they want. And I feel like you would be way more willing to address somebody about how you feel about why you want to make the decision that you're going to make, if that person was going to also be the person that was going to help you get through that and like get to accomplish your goal. But if they end up being like, well, we're going to sit here and we're going to set up some potential like therapy, or there's going to be a screening process, and we're going to determine whether or not this is something that you're actually going to do. You know, there has to be like people who are going to like, you have to let your family know, and you know, square up all your shit that you want to square up before you actually pass on, you know, pass away, you know, end your life, you know. And you know that it's just an idea, you know. I like exploring ideas, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe disagree, but I think these are things that people have to consider, instead of feeling like just because they think that life should be one way, that should be the same way for everybody. The definitions I put for this: if you for a minute there, I lost myself. That's how the lyric goes. I didn't sing it perfectly. I mean, like, I sang it perfectly, but I mean, as far as the appeal of how I sung it, leaves to be desired. I don't know how to say that fucking phrase. I don't that term. You know, I used to read like origins of like terms and stuff like that. I used to do that. I'll talk about that in another episode. But so the name of the song was Karma Police. Looked up the definition of karma and put it in here with the pills and stuff. It says, in Hinduism and Buddhism, these are in parentheses, in Hinduism and Buddhism, karma is the sum of a person's actions in this and previous states of existence, viewed as deciding their fate in future existences. So what that means is that karma is something that you've accumulated in this life and any of your previous lives, and anything that you've done, like whether it's good or bad karma, it's going to determine what life you have down the line, or what you're going to experience down the line. So, or it's basically your fate. And if you don't believe in fate, whatever, but you got to believe in karma. I think karma is just something that you can't like luck. I heard somebody say I don't believe in luck once, which is like, I feel like an argument to not believe in karma is one thing, right? You can make an argument, but not to believe in luck. Luck isn't something that you believe in. It's just a thing that exists, right? You don't get to determine anything about it. It's just something. It's just a thing that occurs, you know. You're lucky if something that could have happened and had just like, look at it this way, is if you have both equal chances of something positive and something negative happening to you, and there's nothing to determine the factor of whether or not the bad thing or the good thing will happen, but the good thing happens, that means you're lucky. If the bad thing happens, you are unlucky. But these things are not anything that you can determine, right? You can't determine if you win the lotto, you got lucky. You didn't do anything to make it so you won the lotto other than purchasing a lotto ticket, right? But there was an impossibility that you could have done anything to affect whether or not that happened to you, right? And that's what luck is. It's something that you don't have an effect over. If you happen to run into your favorite like celebrity and you like get in the same elevator as them and you wanted to meet them, then you got lucky. If you weren't following them, if you didn't know what state they were in or what country they were in at the time, and you just happened to step in the same elevator as them, that's luck. That's what luck is. You know, it's not skill. It's not based off of anything other than it's a random thing. And you know, sometimes people get consistently lucky, which in turn gives them that title of being lucky, right? Like, you're lucky or you're unlucky when bad shit just keeps happening to you, but it's not because of what you're doing to yourself. It's not your fault that these bad things are happening. It's just because it just so happens that a chain of bad things have happened to you, you know. And bad things can happen to you and good things can happen to you, and they can be fully your responsibility. They can fully have occurred because of actions that you took to allow them to occur. You invited them into your life. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about things that you didn't have any decision over, you didn't have any effect over them, but they still occurred. And that's what luck is. So you can't really not believe in luck or believe in luck. It's just a thing, you know. It's just it's a word to describe a part of life, you know, an experience in life. That's what it is. Karma's different. Karma's a belief. You could believe in karma, and that is the determining factor of whether or not your actions have any kind of merit over whether or not of things that happen to you in the future, which is something for sure. Because if you're nice to people and down the line in turn they return that kindness, or if somebody else returns that kindness, it could be based off of karma, because it's based off of the fact that who you are and who you present yourself to be. Sometimes whether or not somebody will help you, even though you don't even know that person, is because they sense in you, or they get a sense of how you carry yourself or how you distinguish yourself, to be like, oh, I like that person. Like, even though that person didn't help me, I saw that person talking to that person, and I feel like I can, you know, pay it forward or whatever, you know. Somebody might see you like help somebody cross the street or be a dick to somebody else, and in turn, you know, you might walk out and fucking have your tires slashed. That's cause and effect. But karma, I think, suggests that it goes even beyond that, right? Even like further down the line. And I don't know, I believe in karma. Police, and we all know what the fucking police is, but let's see what the definition of police is. The civil force of a nation or local government responsible for the prevention and detection of crime and the maintenance of public order. Yeah. So they say. Anyways, this thing's getting pretty long. I think I've talked enough. And I'm gonna be really pissed off if none of this recorded, honestly. But it's recorded. I'm actually recording this for the first time with like headphones in my ears plugged into the mic that I'm using, and I can hear myself talking. And it's kind of awesome. I like it. I don't like hearing myself talk when my voice is echoing, but when my voice is playing in my ear and it's coming out at the same time that I'm talking, I don't have a problem with that. And it's good. It helps me to control how I'm sounding a bit more, you know. That way I'm not doing these things like and I, fucking making all these extra lip noises and shit. Yeah, that's gonna be it for this episode. I'll see you guys on episode 3. Also, I for the longest thought this was episode 3, which it technically kinda is, but it's not, because the first episode is episode 0. So this is episode 2 of LFMP Radio, and stay tuned for episode 3. See you guys next time. Peace out.